significantly decreased after the government introduced several property price curbing measures. 38,571 properties in Taipei exchanged hands last year, the lowest level since 2003. The figure also appeared 35% lower than a 10-year average of property transfers. The luxury tax, which took effect in June 2011, imposed a 15% sales tax on second homes sold within 1 year of purchase and a 10% sales tax on properties sold within the second year. The Alishan National Park Administration says it saw over 2 million visitors last year, marking a 30-year high in visitor numbers in a single year. Previous annual visitor numbers were between 700 and 900,000. Park Administration officials say there was also a huge increase in the number of Chinese tourists to the area in 2012. And elsewhere, operations in the Magong cable car in Taipei's Mucha district were suspended this morning due to power failure. The Taipei Metro Taipei Rapid Transit Corporation, which oversees operations, said power outage was caused by Taipower. The reason for the outage was given. In international news, twin airstrikes by government jets on a large rebel-held suburb of Damascus yesterday sheared the sides off apartment towers and left residents digging through rubble for the dead and wounded. The bombing of Doma came amid a wave of attacks on the rebellious districts of the Syrian capital, part of the government's efforts to keep rebel fighters out of President Bashar Assad's seat of power. And late yesterday, a car bomb exploded at a gas station inside the city itself, killing at least 9 people. U.S. lawmakers are accusing the CIA of misleading the makers of the Osama bin Laden raid film, Zero Dark 30, by telling them that harsh interrogation methods helped track down the terrorist mastermind. The film shows waterboarding and similar techniques as important to finding bin Laden in Pakistan, who was killed there by U.S. Navy SEALs. A 3-year Senate investigation showed that such methods produced no useful intelligence. However, the CIA's acting director, Michael Morrell, recently contradicted that, saying harsh techniques did produce some tips that led to bin Laden. In a letter to the CIA this week, Senators Dianne Feinstein, John McCain, and others asked Morrell to back up his claim and to share documents showing what the filmmakers were told. In Washington, President Obama has signed the $633 billion defense bill into law, but has criticized one of its provisions protecting conscientious rights. Steve Coleman has more.
The provision exempts chaplains from ceremonies like same-sex weddings their faith opposes. It also says the military cannot punish chaplains or other service members for their religious beliefs and must accommodate them unless the individual's speech or actions threaten good order and discipline. In a signing statement, Obama called the conscience provision unnecessary and ill-advised and said his administration remains committed to protecting the rights of gay and lesbian service members. A chaplain support group responded, the president is not at liberty to disregard the law he signed. I'm Steve Coleman.
A new report says more people than you may think fall asleep while driving. AP's Ed Donahue explains.
The CDC study says about 4% of adults say they have recently nodded off at the wheel. Experts think that number may be higher because some people may not realize they fell asleep for a second or two. Researchers found men were more likely to be drowsy drivers. Also, people ages 25 to 34, people who average less than 6 hours a night of sleep. And for some unexplained reason, people from Texas. The government estimates that about 3% of fatal traffic crashes involve drowsy drivers. But other estimates have put that number as high as 33%. I'm Ed Donahue.
26 years after Roman Catholic leaders helped his mother marshal millions of Filipinos in an uprising that ousted a dictator, President Benigno Aquino III picked a fight with the church over contraceptives and won a victory that bared the bishop's worst nightmare. That is, they no longer sway the masses. Last month, Aquino signed the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012 quietly and without customary handshakes and photographs to avoid controversy. The law that provides state funding for contraceptives for the poor pitted the dominant Catholic Church in an epic battle against the popular Aquino and his followers. A couple with links to the church filed a motion Wednesday to stop implementation of the law, and more petitions are expected. However, political analysts say there's no denying Aquino's approval of the legislation had chipped away at the clout the church has held over Filipinos and marks the passing of an era in which it was taboo to defy the church and priests. U.S. State Department is speaking out against the planned trip to North Korea by Google's top officer. AP Sagar Magani has more from Washington.
People familiar with their plans tell the AP Eric Schmidt and former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson will head to North Korea as early as this month. weeks after the new one defied a UN ban with a long-range rocket launch.
We don't think the timing of the visit is helpful, and they're well aware of our views.
State Department's Victoria Nuland says she does not know what Google is planning in North Korea. Experts note it has the world's most restricted internet policies, and that Schmidt is a strong backer of global connectivity. Sagar Megani, Washington.
Google has settled a U.S. government probe into its business practices without making any major concessions on how the company runs its internet search engine, the world's most influential gateway to digital information and commerce. Today's agreement covers only some of the issues raised in a wide-ranging antitrust investigation that could have culminated in a regulatory crackdown that reshapes internet search, advertising, and mobile computing. But the FTC says it didn't find any reason to impose radical changes to the relief of Google and technology trade groups worried about overzealous regulation discouraging future innovation. The resolution did disappoint consumer rights groups and Google rivals such as Microsoft. They had lodged complaints with regulators in hopes of legal action that would split up or at least humble the Internet's most powerful company. Switzerland's oldest bank became the first foreign bank to plead guilty in the United States to tax charges when it admitted yesterday that it helped American clients hide more than $1.2 billion from the Internal Revenue Service. Begelin and Company found that in 1741, entered the plea in federal court in Manhattan. They agreed to pay $20 million in restitution to the IRS, a $22 million fine, and an additional $15.8 million, representing the gross fees earned by the bank on the undeclared amounts of U.S. taxpayers between 2002 and 2011. In total, the U.S. recovered some $74 million. The bank was accused of helping at least 100 U.S. clients conceal large sums of money from the Federal Tax Collection Agency and overseas accounts. The Kremlin has cast Gerard Depardieu as one of the most surprising roles of his life, a new Russian citizen. The announcement yesterday that President Vladimir Putin had approved Depardieu's application for citizenship is almost a real-life analog to the French actor's 1990 comedy Green Card, in which his character enters into a sham marriage in order to work in the U.S. Although in this version, taxes appear to be at the heart of the matter. It's not known if Depardieu has accepted the Russian offer. In business news, Japan's benchmark stock index soared on its first trading day of the new year today as investors reacted to a weakening yen and Washington's temporary avoidance of the so-called